Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of my question and answer video. I had to cut the last one a little bit shorter because it was just running on. Today I'm going to answer some more questions that you asked here on my post on the community tab on my YouTube page. If you're new here, I'm Erin. I'm a homeschooling mom to 4 kids from pre-K up to middle school. And we've been homeschooling from the very beginning. And I love to just post videos on here about things that we have learned along our way in hopes that it will really help you out in your homeschool journey and just encourage you in this process of this lifestyle of home education. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button. So I'm going to break down your questions into different categories. Firstly will be a group of more specific curriculum related questions that I'll try to answer. And then there were some motherhood parenting kind of questions and a couple of more personal or life kind of questions that I will get to at the end. So you can skip ahead if there's a particular category that you are more interested in. I will have some timestamps below that you can jump ahead if you would like to do that. Homeschool Mama asked, what are your thoughts on BJU Press Curriculum and have you ever used it? In short, no. I haven't ever used BJ Press Curriculum, so I don't feel like I can give you a very good what my thoughts are on it because we don't have personal experience with it. I can tell you, I guess, why we haven't used it. And for us, it just, when I have looked into BJU, there are a couple things that have made me shy away from it. While there are certainly some aspects of it that look fantastic, and I know people that use it and love it, so I certainly don't want to say anything bad about it. But for us personally, our decision has been not to use it, in part one, because it is so expensive. It's like $700 for one kid for the year, and I don't know about you, but I don't have $2,800 to be spending on homeschool curriculum for 1 year. It's just not in our budget. And so certainly that is one huge factor for me. Secondly, to me, as someone who leans more Charlotte Mason and unschool, like I talked about earlier, it just feels too traditional school for me. And that's just my personal preference. You might really like the more traditional school format, and that's fantastic. If that works for you, go with it. I am certainly not ever going to say don't use something. If it's something that you love, please use it, no matter what I say. For us, that's just not, it just doesn't jive with our method and how we like to homeschool. The Psalm 119 said, I'd like to know what English and grammar curriculum you recommend for 6th grade. This one's a hard one. I feel like there's way too much to cover. It's not just a one-size-fits-all answer, so it would be hard for me to recommend something that has so many factors that are involved in the process in deciding what a curriculum might work for you. That being said, again, my oldest is 6th grade this year, so we really only have experience with 6th grade curriculum with what he has used. And he this year used writing strands from master books as his kind of core language arts curriculum. We haven't done a ton of grammar, partly because we have really focused on just reading really excellent literature, and he reads a lot. So even without me having to teach him where to put commas and how to capitalize and how to do quotation marks and all of those things, he just inherently has learned how to do it by reading really great resources. I do have a couple of videos on my channel about how to choose the curriculum that's going to be right for you. Again, I will link both of those down in the description below. There are some different tips in each one that can help you to be able to identify what might be a good fit for you. There's just so many options out there, and so many people really love all of them. So it'd be hard for me to choose one and say this would work for anybody, because that's just not how it works. Sorry if that's not a specific enough answer for you. Katie Washburn asked, have you ever used Gather Round? I feel like you would like their unit study approach. Katie, it's funny that you asked that. Because I actually just purchased my first Gather Round unit that we are going to be doing for the month of May. We got the human body unit, and I'm really excited to try it out because it is something that I have been eyeing for the last couple of years, but we just haven't yet, because we had already been established in something that we were working through that was working for us. But this year, our kids are all kind of wrapping up their language arts curriculum very soon. And some of the other stuff, I've just decided that we are going to pause on for the rest of the school year. And so for the month of May, we are going to try doing that Gather Round human body unit and our math, and have that pretty much be it, other than our core like Bible and read aloud time that we do together all of the time anyway. So I am excited to give it a try. Thanks for suggesting it. Kristen Parker asked, any suggestions for a spelling curriculum? Again, kind of like my English and grammar question that I had a few minutes ago. I can only speak to what we have used and what we have liked. I can't necessarily say that what works for us would work for you. But this year I discovered all about spelling, and that has been amazing, particularly for my dyslexic son that has really, really struggled with spelling over the last few years. Now, knowing what I know now about him and how he learns and just this curriculum, I wish I had found it earlier. So I suggest looking into that. There are certainly a lot of great options out there, and there are a lot of language arts curriculum that have spelling included where you wouldn't necessarily need a complete other spelling curriculum. And that's kind of what we've done in the past up until now. But I see the benefit now in starting all about spelling younger, and I will be doing that with our daughter as she gets a little bit older too. Okay, let's move on to some motherhood, parenting kind of questions. Misfit Homemaker asked, do you have a big picture overall strategy for raising your children? Whew, that's a deep one. Honestly, our strategy as parents, as Christian parents, is to raise our children up to know and love Jesus, and to serve him and to serve others. And those are kind of like the huge overarching strategies and goals. If we can do those things, then I will feel like I did my job as a parent well. Because the most important thing about you, the most important thing about me, is what we believe about Jesus. Because that's going to determine how we live our life now, but that's going to determine our eternity and what happens after this life is over. And so my important role as a parent is to teach my kids to know and love the Lord. And so that is why we choose things that we do, as far as scripture memory and Bible and character study, and all of those things are a huge core part of our homeschooling experience, because that is foundational to everything. If they know and love the Lord, then they will be successful. I don't care if they are cattle ranchers or farm hands or a president of a company. As long as they know and love the Lord, I did my job. The other aspect of that is to, as a homeschool mom and just as a parent, is to help teach our kids to find what they love. And I want them to grow up to have a career and have a life that they love. I know that's not very detailed or specific, but that's the core thing. That's the biggest thing for me as a parent. Amy Vonzik asked, do you eat the same meals that your kids do, or do you make something different for yourself? And do you have any tips on getting kids to eat healthier options? Well, actually, our kids eat what we eat. So I don't eat what they eat. I make food that we like, and then our kid, that's what they eat, because that's the option that's available to them. Maybe we're a little bit more strict than a lot of people are with that, but to me, it's important for them to eat and to learn to eat what is placed in front of them, because I don't have the time to make multiple meals, and I want them to grow up knowing different types of food and being comfortable and happy eating different types of food, so that when they go places, they will be respectful and courteous, and they will accept and eat what is given them. If they go to someone else's house and something is there that they might not necessarily like, they are still learning to eat it and to be respectful. And so that is something that has always been big for us, especially once they get to the point of being school age. Now, while they have been a little bit littler, if say I'm making something super spicy, like curry or something like that, I will maybe save some of the meat out for them that isn't as strong, just because that's easy for me to separate a little bit out and do that. But I am not making a whole separate meal for any of my kids. They will eat what they are given, and that's just kind of how we do things. And if they don't want to eat it, then that is their choice, and they go to bed hungry if they're not going to eat it. That's their choice. Certainly, that is just how we do things in our house. That's not to say that you need to follow our example. That's just what we do. And then let's see, tips on getting kids to eat healthier options. Well, the first thing with that is just to, I would say, start while they're young. The younger they are, the easier it is to do that. I have heard too that it takes kids or people in general like 7 times, somewhere around there, of trying a new food before they can kind of develop a taste and an appreciation for it. So I would say don't give up if you are trying to get your kids to eat broccoli or cucumbers or whatever the choices may be. Keep trying those new things and maybe try different preparations of them, or just eating raw vegetables are a huge thing in our house. We eat massive amounts of raw produce. The other thing certainly is having healthy options available and easily accessible, and not having things that are not healthy. So our kids and us will eat what's available. So if we have chips and pretzels and animal crackers and fruit snacks and all of those things available as an option, those are always going to be, getting eaten up first because they taste good. But if we want to train our kids, or ourselves, if we're trying to eat healthier too, to appreciate and enjoy healthier foods, then we need to have more of those things available. Another thing to do too is to get your kids involved in the process of cooking or preparing food. A lot of times kids will enjoy or be willing to try something that they have helped make versus just being given it. So that's one option maybe to give a try if you haven't done that yet. Amy also asked, what are some of your favorite Christian authors related to motherhood? Unfortunately, Amy, I don't have a great answer for you on this one. I have not read a ton of books about Christian motherhood. The majority of the books that I have read, especially in the recent years, have been more about homeschooling, so I don't have a whole lot to tell you. I can say that I have read this one called Don't Make Me Count to 3 by Ginger Plowman. And this one was really good. This is about biblical discipline. My absolute favorite book, if you're looking for a more specific homeschooling, home education book by a Christian author would be Teaching from Rest by Sarah Mackenzie. I cannot recommend that book enough, especially if you are in a place where you are feeling stressed out and overwhelmed and kind of bogged down by homeschooling. It was transformational in my life as far as our homeschool journey goes. So I highly recommend that book. Okay, now for the little bit more general life type questions. There's just a couple of them. Bethany Bull asked, I'd like to know what your favorite hobbies are and what made you and your husband decide to homeschool. Well, as far as hobbies go, certainly the vast majority of my time outside of actual homeschooling still has to do with homeschooling. I love researching and just trying to figure out new and better ways to do things. That definitely is very time consuming for me, as well as doing these YouTube videos takes a big chunk of my time, and it's something that I also really enjoy. So I would consider this one of my hobbies. Certainly not at a place at this point in time where I'm making any kind of money that would consider this a job. It is certainly more of a hobby and a ministry that I do this for. Doing my YouTube videos has kind of fulfilled that creative outlet need for myself. I've always kind of been more of that artistic spirit and have needed to have some form of artistic outlet. So this is what this is for me now. One of the other things that I really love is I'm obsessed with historical fiction books. And so I do read, aka listen to audiobooks, a lot of historical fiction. I almost always have a book going on my Libby app on my phone that I listen to while I'm preparing meals and folding clothes and doing things like that. So that, I guess, would be a hobby. What made us decide to homeschool, though? I never thought that I would homeschool. Like, that was never really something that I considered. I always kind of assumed, even when we got married, we waited several years before we had kids. And I kind of thought that they would go to Christian school, but then certainly price was a factor in that. And when my oldest was like preschool aged, we did do some workbooks and some kind of homeschooling stuff with him. And we butted heads. He's that typical oldest child perfectionist. And if he didn't get something like that, meltdown, it was just over. And I didn't know how to teach that. So I thought for sure, like, I can't homeschool him. I don't know how to do that. But then he went to pre-K 2 days a week for a couple of hours. And I had to volunteer one day while he was there. And I went and was like, that's it. That's all they're doing. I could do that. And so that kind of started that thought process. I think that, well, you know what, for kindergarten, we're going to try homeschooling. And we kind of went into it with the thought that we would take 1 year at a time and just see how things go. And the more time we spent doing it, the longer I homeschooled, the more I really felt like that was God's plan for us and that he was calling me to homeschool our kids. And now that's the biggest thing. I think I know that this is what the Lord has for us. But the other huge factor is there was no way that I wanted to put my kids into public school, knowing some of the things that they are being taught there are completely contrary to what we believe and know to be true, and was not about to send my kids to the wolves. And that is our personal decision, what we have decided for us. Not to say that that is right for everyone, but that's what we have chosen. At the beginning, one of the biggest things for us too was that we really wanted to incorporate Bible and the Lord in with our children's education, and we knew for sure that they were not going to be getting that in public school, and Christian school just wasn't really an option, and so that left homeschooling. And here we are 7 years later, still going strong, still loving it more than ever, even though it is a huge challenge and very difficult at times, but I definitely still feel that this is where the Lord has us and what he wants us to be doing. Amy Vonzik, I hope that's right, asked, when you do your personal Bible time, do you use any particular Bible study resources? And if so, do you have any favorites to recommend? Right now, I just started actually at the beginning of March, I think it was, started doing a 1-year chronological Bible reading plan. And so right now in my personal Bible time, I am reading through the Bible. For the past couple of years, up until this point, I have really, really enjoyed just doing inductive Bible studies book by book. So I have used She Reads Truth studies, and they're not actual studies, they're more just like the scripture written in a book with big margins so you can take lots of notes. And using my ESV study Bible, there is a tremendous wealth of information in the notes in the study Bible. So I highly suggest, if you don't have one of those already, get one, because it explains almost verse by verse what every single verse in the Bible means, and gives you so much more information and backstory to things that, even though I've been a Christian and have read my Bible almost every day for the last 25 years or so, doing an inductive Bible study and really drilling into each verse by verse has opened my eyes to so much more depth in the Word. I believe wholeheartedly that the Bible is living and active, and it speaks to us where we're at. It gives us guidance for what we need. It gives us hope. It gives us comfort. It points us to Christ, who is the most important thing. And reading through the Bible from the beginning through gives us that huge, big picture story, God's story, and it's life-changing. Hopefully this was fun for you to do too. I really had a good time sharing my thoughts and my processes, so to speak, with you guys. Again, check out those other videos in the description below if you want a little bit more information on those things that I mentioned, as well as if there's anything that I talked about that I just touched on briefly that you want to know more specifics about, please put that in the comments below so that I can think through how I might be able to make a more in-depth video for you about that particular topic. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Be blessed today. Bye-bye.